Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this video, viewer request, I'm doing my top 10 favorite figures of the year. Now the year already ended, so I'm not going to get my big payout that YouTube usually does with their advertising during the Christmas season. Ads are worth way more then, but you guys wanted this, so I figured I would do it anyway. And I think it's actually kind of a good idea because this will give you guys some idea as to how I think about my reviews, because they're not meant to be just user reviews. They're meant to be critical reviews so that you guys can make informed buying decisions. My personal preferences don't factor into them as much as I can possibly manage it. So this is strictly personal preference. Now, of course, being a reviewer and having the eye that I have, I tend to have I tend to consider the objective qualities as a lot when I'm deciding if I like a figure personally or not, but you'll see on this list that they're not all the same as the top 10 at all. In fact, you'll find some that aren't even on that list. So let's go ahead and dive into it. I'm not going to do an honorable mention, just going to jump right in because I've already wasted enough of your time. So let's go ahead and start with number 10. It is the NECA Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Comic Shredder Clone 2-pack. This set just looks so damn cool. It's gonna look cool on a shelf. It doesn't, it has some articulation for what it is. It's pretty decent, I guess. But it's gonna basically just not get touched ever. But it's gonna look freaking cool on a shelf, while still being an action figure. Now, you guys have heard me mention I'm not a statue guy. I'm not. But if it's an action figure that looks really good, I can settle with not touching it and it being okay. So this guy comes in at number 10. Can't pose him too much, but looks really cool, so there you have it. Coming in at number 9, we have Blade Master Wang, and the reason this guy is not higher up on the list is he had a few issues that just bother me personally. You cannot swap his hands without using a hairdryer or hot water. That hurts the playability, hurts the fun factor. I'm not going to want to swap out his hands ever. Also, you can't pose him that much without stripping him naked. So, there are some things holding him back. A few things I don't like about the paint being that they're muddy here and there, but he's just such a cool character design that they executed wonderfully in an action figure form, loaded with details. Another wonderful shelf piece despite the flaws. I just can't put it higher up on the list because it's got those issues that I'm gonna be thinking about every time I'm handling it, if I choose to handle it. Coming in at number 8, we have Cousin Frank. And you guys know I don't give a flying Naruti about Naruti characters. I couldn't care less personally, but this figure, despite that, is super fun. I'm not putting it on here because of its objective qualities, though that tends to spill over. It's just a really fun, well-executed figure. Could he have had an effect part? Yeah, sure, definitely. But this guy's gonna pose well. He's gonna be fun to handle, and you guys will know if you've been collecting for any amount of time, some figures are not fun to handle, no matter how good they look, no matter how whatever. They're just not fun. They're unpleasant. It's finicky. It's delicate, whatever. This guy's not. He's a great one to play with, not in the bath time. That's later for number 1. But this guy's fun to pose around on your desk for sure. A lot of fun with this figure despite not caring at all about the character. Coming in at number 7, we have the Storm Collectibles Balrog. This guy is just about exactly what I wanted him to be. It's a little short here and there, and okay, so when you pose his torso, it gets a little weird, and you can't bring his arms into his, for a tight tucked-in pose for boxing as much as I'd like, but it just looks so darn good, and I'm not even particularly interested in Balrog as a character. Not this version of Balrog, I like the other one. But it's a fun figure, and it looks exactly the way it's supposed to, and this is what really sold me on it. The finish. It's a nice flat to matte finish with shading throughout. It really brings it to life. It has that sort of cartoonish yet realistic quality that Storm does. I think they brought this guy to life perfectly, and I think it's one of their better releases, at least in the Street Fighter line. Coming in at number 6, we have the SH Figuarts Trunks, which, if you guys remember correctly, was the honorable mention for the top 10 disappointing figures of the year. And that's because my personal preferences and my personal delights, shall we say, don't factor into my reviews as much as I can help it. This guy's riddled with problems that he shouldn't have. As a reviewer, I can't abide. However, as a collector, he's still really fun, and once you pose him, his big weird hips disappear. His arm falling off, I can get around it. I mean, I hate it. It shouldn't be that way. Same thing with the weird jacket collar, and different things like that are definitely problems. But I still enjoy the figure a whole bunch, and once you get him posed, he looks really cool. but that doesn't really help you because you might not feel that way. So that's why in my reviews, I focus on the objective and you guys can make your own decisions. If I just tell you, oh, I really like this figure, you're going to buy it and be like, well, what the heck? Its arm falls off and it has wide hips and you didn't mention any of that. Well, that's why I do things the way I do. All right, moving on to number 5, we have the Mafex Nightwing. Not the most elaborate figure in the world, not the most interesting character design, not the most anything really. Except it is very posable. You can pose this guy pretty much however you want. There are a few slight things that Mafex needs to work on really, mostly in the hip region. But this guy poses very well, and even though he's not painted especially well for being such a basic design, he still looks decent, and the reason he looks decent really is the sculpt. They nailed the anatomy. It really lends itself to a really plain figure looking good. And I say it time and time again, if you get the sculpt right, you don't need to cover it with paint. Hasbro refuses to get the sculpt right and refuses to use paint. It's very strange. This guy's a perfect example. Very little paint, not particularly clean, but he looks really good. And then he happens to pose really well and has a couple of cool accessories. So yeah, he definitely had to get on there. Okay, number 4, we have NECA's Raphael from The Last Ronin. Another thing that I'm not particularly interested in, I don't know anything about The Last Ronin other than what I've gathered from comment sections and action figures themselves. I just don't care about Ninja Turtle storylines at all. If it's not the live action, I don't care. But this is one of the best looking figures from a domestic company, probably ever, at a normal price point. Like, it's not some crazy, like, I don't know, fan-funded thing. It's just a regular release that looks damn good. It's missing a few details of paint here and there, but it is mostly painted really well with washes and highlighting and lots of detail work, really nice sculpt work to carry it through, and it poses well enough to go with those nice accessories. There's not a whole lot more you could ask for a domestic figure at MSRP of, what was this guy, 35 bucks? I think that's what it was. Just easily one of the best figures produced from a domestic company overall. It's a shame I'm not more into The Last Ronin, but there it is. Okay, on to number 3. Another figure that didn't make my top 10 list at all. We have Goku. I personally really enjoy this Goku. I personally can look past the miscolored chest and the other issues it has. However, you shouldn't have to wonder if there are things you're going to have to personally look past. So that's why I put him on the other list of not being any good. He didn't actually make the list of any list because he had problems, but he's really good too. Anyway, point being, I enjoy the figure a whole lot. It poses really well. It looks really good. It's the Goku I've wanted for a very long time. They still have some room for improvement for sure. It has problems, but it's still a lot of fun. It's my personal favorite Goku that they've done. I'd probably go with this one, and I have this one, SSJ4, and SSJ3, the newest SSJ3. I like those figures a whole bunch. This one too. There's just something about it. It has that feel. You can play it, you can pose it. It's fun to have. If you can look past the issues, you're going to enjoy it, at least if you think the way I do. And I think that way, so that's why it's on the list. But those flaws definitely held it back, and everybody's saying it's the most perfect thing ever. You're not being objective. All right, moving on to number 2, we have the Figma Samus from Metroid Dread. Now, this figure is, as far as I'm concerned, worth the money. People like to say, oh, it's too expensive, it's a Figma, it shouldn't cost that much, and generally that's true for Figma, because they usually use piss-poor articulation. This figure has all kinds of fresh-baked articulation, brand new stuff made just for this figure, and it works really, really well. The shoulders are an articulation marvel, if you ask me. Samus has these giant shoulder pads with this relatively bulky chest armor, and this figure can move its shoulders around across its chest, do whatever it wants to do seamlessly. It looks wonderful, it's easy to do, it's not finicky, very nicely done, and then you get all the rest of the articulation you need for basically any pose you want. The hips work well, the torso, knee, everything works really nicely, and it is not your standard Figma. I'm perfectly okay with the price point if they're going to put this kind of effort into their figures. I will say it needed a blast effect or something like that, but still, excellent, excellent, excellent action figure. One of the best made action figures in my collection. Purpose built for exactly what they wanted it to do. Alright, and then coming in at number 1, to nobody's surprise, it's the Jada Street Fighter figures. I am not blind to their flaws. For everybody saying, oh, these figures actually aren't that good, well, I think you're being a little bit salty. Take your sour grapes somewhere else. It's that they're only at $25 and they come with an alternate head, alternate hands, and an effect part. And they're fully built new sculpts, and they're covered in paint-ish. That's why everybody's talking about how good this line is. Does it have flaws? Absolutely. Does Ryu? We have 3 different Ryus now. Only the dark Ryu has a normal skin tone. The other 2 are weird. Their faces are weird. They're not perfect. They're kind of using training wheels right now because they used to make metal cars. They didn't used to make action figures. And now that they're doing it, there's going to be a learning curve. However, what they've produced is astounding for the price point. $25, you can't get a better figure from any company selling figures right now. Not for a standard release. And you can say, well, SH Figure Arts does the $30 entry figures. Sure, okay, that's a special thing because everything else is $80. So they get people into the line with the main characters at $30. I get it, but this is a regular release. Every figure in the line as of right now, $25. Head, hands, accessories, paint job, sculpt. It just has everything you want and they're fun. Do the joints get loose a little bit? Yes, because they're insert molded. That's going to happen. People keep talking about pinless joints. I always say, you know what? There are downsides too. These guys have them, but they also have the benefits. They have the benefits of everything you want with some flaws. I can look past those personally. I think anybody can for $25. And I'm very excited to see where this line goes because so far it's been very nice. And that's why I think it's very promising. Okay, so that's it. That's enough rambling from me personally. You guys got your fill of my own personal biases here, and now you can kind of juxtapose what I said here to the things I say in my reviews, so you have an idea of where I'm coming from. That Trunks is a perfect example. Same thing with Goku. Problems that I have to talk about in the reviews. That's what the review is for. But I still like it personally. People like to say, oh, you don't like anything, and I like to say that's not what my reviews are for. If my reviews are just about what I like, how would that do anybody any good? Anyway, okay, that's enough again. I'm done. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. And if you haven't subscribed, you should. I have new videos every day but Wednesday. Oh, I'm also probably going to be missing a few days here and there in this next month or so. Things are a little bit light in terms of figures coming in, and I'm kind of busy. But we'll see. I'll try to do that. But otherwise, videos are every day but Wednesday. Also, sometimes Wednesday. And I do have thousands of videos already on the channel. So make sure you come back for all of that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.